All right, so welcome to today's webinar where you get to hear from some current participants in Spain now. We definitely have one participant with us. Hopefully the second one, we will figure out her audio soon. If not, I know that our one presenter with us, Cleo, has a lot of great stories to tell, and you'll learn a lot from her. All right, so let's see. So today I'm going to do a quick review about why someone might choose to come through CIEE to teach in Spain, a quick review of our different programs in Spain, an overview of the language and culture assistant position. I'll introduce our presenters, and then we'll hear from them on some different topics. And then at the end, you can ask some questions and hear from them about their answers. All right, so there are many different ways to teach abroad. You can independently find a job, you can use a recruiter hired by foreign schools, or you can go through a program provider like CIEE. Our program is more than just a job. It's a comprehensive package designed to give you the preparation and support you need to succeed at this experience. While we do charge a fee to join our programs, we use our resources and experience to make sure that this program is the best fit for you and will support you the entire time that you're teaching abroad. If you aren't sure which program you're eligible for or what the difference between the programs is, please feel free to reach out. We're always available to speak with you. Our application is in English, and we're happy to help you throughout the application process and answer any questions that you have. Also, everyone on our team has taught abroad, so we would be happy to use our experience and advice to help guide you through your experience. Once you're accepted and offered a job placement, we do include visa assistance and pre-departure webinars about Spanish culture, what to expect when you arrive, and practical information about moving abroad. CIEE also puts together an in-country orientation when you arrive to meet your fellow participants and the CIEE staff in Madrid. At orientation, participants learn some teaching tips, what to expect at their school, and how to navigate life in Spain. Lastly, your CIEE program fee also covers travel insurance and 24/7 emergency support from our staff in Spain. When your program ends, we do offer a US-based job verification and membership in our alumni network, which is over 300,000 people. They also host alumni events and alumni networking. So it's one more way to receive that CIEE difference and something that sets us apart. All right, so here you can see a list of our different programs. We have the Teach in Spain, the Teach in Spain Basics, the Teach in Spain Language Immersion, and then the smaller professional and volunteer programs. So our regular basics and immersion programs are our biggest programs in Spain, and they all share the same teaching position, which is a 9-month contract as a language and culture assistant. You'll be teaching at primary and secondary public schools in the region of Madrid. You're paid €1,000 per month scholarship, and you are responsible for your own long-term housing. All right. So a little bit more about what it means to be a language and culture assistant. As part of a nationwide government-sponsored multilingual initiative, CIEE places participants as language and culture assistants in primary and secondary public schools in the region of Madrid. The language and culture assistant plays an essential role in increasing cultural and linguistic understanding between the citizens of Spain and North America. Your duties will vary depending on the school you're hosted by. As native English speakers with unparalleled insight into U.S. culture, participants will stimulate their students' interests and greatly improve their oral communication abilities. You'll not only be teaching in English classes, but you may also lead activities in English in classes of different subjects, such as science or art or physical education. Program participants may work with entire classes or with small groups of students to develop speaking, listening, reading, and writing skills and cultural understanding. In many schools, the teaching assistant may also teach English to members of the school staff or help prepare older students for international English exams. Participants are not left alone with entire classes, nor are they responsible for grading, discipline, or independent supervision of students. You'll be expected to work 16 hours each week, but you can also agree to participate in or lead other activities outside of that time, which could be faculty meetings, cultural presentations, an English language club, and also extracurricular activities like music and theater performances and sporting events. All right, let's see if we've managed to figure out. Good. Jill, it looks like We now have both participants. Right, so now Jill and Cleo, you can mute and unmute yourselves. Jill, I think currently you are unmuted, which is perfect because I believe you are the first person to introduce yourself. Hello, Jill. Can you say hi and tell us a little bit about yourself? Jill, are you there? Jill, hello? It says that she's here, but...
Hello?
Let's see, I'll send her a message and see if we can get her. Hello, Jill, are you here? Can you talk?
Yeah, I think I'm here.
Yay, Jill, I hear you. Okay, you're a little bit quiet, though.
Oh, I'm quiet?
A little bit. Can everyone hear Jill? Type yes into the questions box if you can hear Jill. Yes, good. All right, Jill, please introduce yourself.
Okay, well, hi, I'm Jill, and I'm first year auxiliary. And so I graduated from Butler University last year, 2015, as you can see. And
oh, Jill, I think we're losing your audio a little bit. Oh, no. Jill, are you there?
Are you there?
I can hear you now.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay, awesome. So sorry about all this.
No worries.
Auxiliary, graduated from Butler last year, and you can probably see from the slide that I studied Spanish, which was really helpful coming here, but it's absolutely not necessary. So I think what I might be best in speaking about is what I do with my spare time outside of teaching. I'm also a really good person if you have any questions about how to interact with the teaching environment at your school. I happen to love my school, and I teach in a secondary school, in a secondary bilingual school. So you'll see that some of the things that I do outside of teaching, I volunteer teach English to refugees. I do this once a week. Actually, just before speaking here on this webinar, I went to my refugee center 30th anniversary celebration, which was really cool. And I promote and work at a nightclub, which I'm also doing tonight. I do this every Thursday. It's really fun, and it's an opportunity for me to just hang out and have some nice downtime with my friends. I'm also picking up Arabic as my third language. It's really hard, but it's challenging and it's a lot of fun. And my teacher is a Syrian refugee with whom I was connected with at the refugee center where I volunteer. I also support Democrats abroad, so of course I study political science, so I'm into this kind of stuff. And I absolutely love to travel. I'm going to Dublin this weekend, and I love to read different novels, more literature or historically based. And so I do a lot with my spare time here, and I would encourage you, if you choose to do this program, to take advantage of all the great free time you have here. Teaching is amazing. It's a wonderful opportunity to challenge yourself in a new environment and engage in something perhaps that you would have never thought you would have done before. I never thought I'd be a teacher. I was one of those people who thought would go straight to law school, but that's not my case at all, and I wouldn't trade this year for anything. So, yeah, I think I'll just let the next speaker go from there.
Great. Thank you. All right, Jill, I'm going to let you mute yourself on and off whenever you want to chime in. Since there's just two of you, I think it's up to you guys to mute or unmute yourself as is comfortable for you.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so next is Cleo. Cleo, please introduce yourself.
All right, can everyone hear me?
I think so. Yeah. I can hear you.
All right, I was a 4-week immersion participant, just like Jill. We were actually in the same program, and I went to the University of Delaware And there I had a major in marketing and 2 minors in Spanish and advertising. And like Jill said, it was extremely helpful coming to Spain, having that Spanish background and participating in the 4-week immersion program. However, not necessary because your Spanish will improve if you don't have any Spanish knowledge at all. Within the first month, you'll be able to speak full sentences. So don't worry about that at all. Just like Jill, in my spare time, apart from teaching, I'm doing a lot of traveling. Just went to Portugal over the Semana Santa Easter week, and I have a couple trips planned next. I'm currently training for a half marathon, so that is what takes up most of my extracurricular time. And I'm also a blogger for the CIEE program, which has been a wonderful experience because I never really liked writing. I always thought I struggled with it, so this experience has really forced me to kind of sit down and focus and write about things that I enjoy, and I have received nothing but positive feedback about that. So it has been both a personal experience that is, an experience that's benefited me and both the program, so I'm very thankful for that. And in addition to that, just going to different restaurants around Madrid. There are crazy places to eat, Mexican food and tacos that cost €1, or fancy dinners that cost a little bit more, but just trying new foods and new places, that's a lot of the stuff that I like to do in my free time.
That sounds awesome. I also consider myself to be a food traveler, so I can appreciate that. I definitely recommend, if anyone has not checked out our Teach in Spain blog, you should definitely go check it out. It's on the Teach Abroad website, on the Teach in Action page. And Cleo definitely has a lot of great posts there, and it's really fun to see more stories and an intimate look at different people and their experiences while teaching in Spain. All right, so now Cleo and Jill go back and forth and talk about certain particular subjects, and at the end, I'd be happy to relay to them any questions that you guys write in the questions box. All right, so let's get started. Cleo, you want to open it up with some cultural differences that you might have noticed moving from the U.S. to Spain?
Sure. Culture shock is definitely a real thing, and it still happens to me each and every day here, but it's a good thing. Some of the main cultural differences that I have noticed while being in Spain, I think the first one, to start off on a positive note, is the culture itself is much more laid back, whereas in the United States we have a stereotype as working all the time, working ourselves into the ground, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think a lot of Americans take pride in their work, but the culture here is very laid back, whereas when you go out with your coworkers, when you go out with friends, it isn't to, pound as many shots as you can. It's to enjoy life, relax, socialize, get to know each other, and just spend time with each other, which I really enjoyed. And going along with that, that culture, you can see a lot of that through the way that the schedule is made. So the schedule in Spain starts a lot later and ends a lot later. So people don't eat dinner until 10 o'clock. So it's not uncommon to go to a restaurant on a Friday, Saturday night, or even during the week and see people sitting down to eat at 10, 10:30, even 11 o'clock, and it not being anything strange. Or having lunch at 3 in the afternoon. Jill and I both work at secondary schools. I finish at around 3:15 every day, and the teachers then go home and then have lunch, whereas I'm used to, and I'm sure most of you guys listening in are used to, eating a quick lunch on the go, eating lunch around 12 p.m. And that's not to say that you can't do that, but the culture is very much more relaxed and focused around enjoying your meal, enjoying your coffee, enjoying what's in front of you, than taking things on the go. You will never see a Spaniard with a Starbucks coffee in their hand on the metro. Never. And if you do, then it's probably an American or somebody else. So that's one thing that I noticed that was different that I certainly enjoy, but it's hard to get used to. Another thing, PDA is huge. I'm sure you've heard that PDA is big all over Europe, and it's certainly really big in Spain. It's not uncommon to see people all over each other in the metro or in the park, and it's just a different way of living, a different way of life. People are just very affectionate, so that's something to just, take note of, I guess. And another thing I had written down was customer service. In the United States, I feel like the motto is the customer is always right. When you go to a restaurant, you're paying for your meal, but you're also paying for the service through tipping. And here, yes, you can tip, and if you're going out with, a group of 10 people, it is common to leave a tip. Not as much as we do in the States, but certainly to leave what you feel the meal was worth or the service was worth. But I would definitely take note that the service in general is not as good as what we have at home. So, for example, cell phone companies. I will go into a cell phone company store and try to explain to them that this happened to my phone, my service was cut off, like, what can you help me? And it's kind of like, this happened, deal with it, move on. Whereas in the States, maybe you would receive a reimbursement of some sort, you would be able to talk to a supervisor. It's not as, they're not as the customer is always right type of thing. That's not to say that people aren't nice. I have gone out to dinner and spoken to people on the phone who have been very, very, very nice and ended up resolving the problem, but it's just very different in that context. And the last thing I wanted to say was pickpocketing. I'm from New York. I lived outside the city, so I'm not from a city, but pickpocketing is much more prevalent in Spain than it is in the United States. Even if you think your phone is in your pocket and it's zipped, there's still a chance that somebody can, a professional pickpocketer can get your phone. So people, they're professionals at it, so you just have to be aware of your surroundings at all times. And that's all I have for that.
Definitely, yeah. Those are some good things to keep in mind. All right, cool. All right, I think we're going to move on to the next one. So let's see. Jill, can you tell us a little bit about teaching at your school and what that experience is like?
Sure. So the rules are pretty strict about teaching the 4 hours a day. So you'll teach 16 hours a week, 4 hours a day. Depending on your school, you might have breaks between your classes. I know that at my secondary school, there are a couple of days where I work straight through from, for example, from 9:30 to 1:30, and then I have one day where I'm at the school from 8:30 to 2:30 with a 2-hour break. So it just depends on the schedule that the teachers give you. Your teaching placement will be in the community of Madrid. So don't worry about how far it is from the center. When I first got my teaching placement and I realized it was about an hour and 15, hour and a half from where I lived, I was a little bit disappointed. But don't be, because I've found really nice ways to use that time. So one thing I do is I keep a journal every day, and I just use that time to journal. And then on the way back, I take a little nap. So don't worry about thinking that you're losing time by a long ride to school. My school is also near La Sierra, so it's in the mountains, so I enjoy the view every morning. But I'll talk a little bit about what I do with my lessons and my classes. It depends really on what the teacher might want from me. So, for example, a teacher might tell me, I just want you to sit in here in class because I'm teaching biology and English, and you can help me with either the pronunciation or the vocabulary in a biology class's terminology. Or I might take a couple of students out at a time, like a group of 5 or 6 for 5 minutes each, and just speak with them about how their day is. Sometimes I give cultural presentations. I've given a presentation about my family and what my life is like in Indiana. That's where I'm from. Some teachers allow me to take half the class. The half, either which is most behavior, has the highest English level, and I'll do a more innovative English lesson playing with them. So it just depends really what you want to do. And I also have 2 gym classes, which is kind of a nice break. It's a nice break for the kids to see you in a more relaxed, fun setting. You get to play baseball with them or something like that sometimes. So that's always a fun thing to do at times. Teaching is and has been a really rewarding experience. What I found is that I'm most successful when I focus on engaging the students in a classroom. So this might be different for primary school, but I know for secondary school, a lot of the students are hitting their teenage years, and I know we all love being a teenager. And sometimes, though, we remember that's really hard. So when you find ways to kind of get on their level and show a little bit of empathy, that's when they want to learn most from you, and they really become very interested in English. They're already curious about you because you're more of the young, cool teacher as an English teaching assistant. But I'll say I've really enjoyed my experiences so far. If you ever have any questions about what you're supposed to do and not supposed to do, your roles with a teacher, and as an English teaching assistant, I know CIE has really good guidelines, and they'll mentor you through that if you have any questions. And they'll also encourage you and show you how to professionally communicate that with your school if you ever have any issues. I haven't had any, but if there comes a point, I've heard some things where someone might say, I have a lot of classes that aren't English classes, and they might want to pursue more English classes because that's what they're supposed to do as an English teaching assistant. CIE will help you, and but don't worry if you ever have any problems. Overall, I think everyone who I know and all my friends here have had really good experiences at their school. So I just encourage you to be really excited. The students are even more excited to see you and get to know you. So yeah, overall, really great experience.
That's great. Cleo, do you have anything to add about what you like, what your daily tasks are at your school?
Sure. My experience is a little different from, I think, most people because I'm only physical education, whereas most people I know teach maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 different subjects. So I work with 2 teachers instead of 4 or 5, like I just said. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing a lot of the same thing every day, which can be a bit challenging just to engage myself, incorporate myself into every class. But I do find it rewarding, and I do love it because I love sports, and like Jill said, the kids get to see me in a different environment. So in that context, it can be challenging because they're running around and they're in their teenage years and they're kind of reckless. But at the same time, I get to relate to them, play sports with them, be athletic, and also teach them something that I love. One of my favorite subjects when I was their age. So my experience is a bit different that way, and I have a great relationship with my teachers because I see them every single day. And yeah, I mean, I love wearing sweatpants every day, so that's a plus.
That does sound like a pretty good gig. All right, great. Let's see. Next, Cleo, can you tell us a bit about the apartment hunting process and what you ended up deciding on?
Sure. So CIE provided us with a lot of useful tools during our orientation because you hop on a plane and you move abroad and you have nowhere to live. But it is a lot easier than it sounds. I think it's actually a much easier process than the United States. So there are a bunch of different websites. The one that I used was called Idealista, and all of this will be provided at orientation. And you can search for your apartment that way based on location, based on the number of people you want to live with, based on if it's smoking or non-smoking or pets or no pets. You can filter it however you want. The great thing about the website, like I said, is you can filter it however you want, so you can be as specific or as broad. And I would say majority of the people I know have rented a room. So what's different, what I think, than the States is usually you go to rent an apartment and you have to fill the apartment with 4 or 5 people, however many rooms there are. But here in Spain, you're able to rent just una habitación, one room. So you're just paying for your room and you're responsible for that and the common area. And it is possible to rent an entire flat, which you can go with you and your 5 or 4 friends and rent it that way. But if you're looking by yourself, it's easier to rent just a room. And what was I going to say? And listed on the website on Idealista, you will find that most of the apartments come furnished because you're not going to go out and buy a bed and a closet and a desk and all that stuff just for 9 months. Most of the apartments in Spain will already come furnished. You don't have to worry about any of that. And on the websites or the landlords will tell you themselves if utilities are included or not. My utilities are not included, and they come out to about 40 a month. Other places do come included, and they just add maybe 40 or 50 euro to the bill each month. It just depends. One thing I would say...
Your rent about per month with utilities?
Sure. I think with utilities, it's always less than 400 euros. Cool. And I live in the center in an area called Malasaña, which is one of the younger neighborhoods. So it is a more expensive neighborhood than, say, a neighborhood that's farther from the center. So you will find that my rent maybe is more expensive than somebody else's that lives at a 30-minute walk from the center of Madrid. But my main priority when I was searching was this location. So I think that one piece of advice would be that it does get stressful because everyone's trying to find an apartment at the same time. However, be persistent if you're contacting landlords and they're not responding to you, or you're positive that you want that apartment, don't hesitate to call them again, because the early bird catches the worm. Like if you want it and you call them, you're more likely to get the apartment. And I think that I had to lower my expectations. I wanted to live in the center. I wanted to pay a certain price. I wanted to be with my 2 friends from the program, but I also wanted to live with Spanish people. And that's 4 or 5 filters, if I could say, that it's impossible to find exactly what you're looking for in such a short amount of time. So I live in the area that I want. I live with my cousin and my friend who are both in CIEE, and I pay a decent price. And I didn't live with a Spanish person at the time, and now somebody moved in, so it all worked out. But I think that lowering your expectations and picking what's your top priority and focusing on that is a good way to find an apartment, because in a short amount of time it is difficult to find exactly what you're looking for. And if it doesn't work out, there's always changes to be made. The last thing I'll say is that you do want to find an apartment with a landlord that will give you an official contract, just so you know that you're paying this amount of money each month. You're going to pay this amount in utilities, or gastos is the word in Spanish, and that if anything happens, you have a contract to prove that you live in this apartment. And I think that's it.
Cool. And how long do you think you were apartment hunting before you found your apartment?
I think for me it was about 2 weeks, and I got here in August, and I think as September rolls around, it gets a little harder since the study abroad kids come from Europe and the United States, and people return for the summer. Mm-hmm. But it's not impossible at all. It's just a matter of persistency and not giving up.
Great.
Which is persistent.
All right. And how much of a deposit did you have to put down when you first rented the apartment?
Yes, most apartments will be a 1-month deposit. So I paid $340 for my deposit, which I will get back at the end of my contract, and I paid my first month's rent too.
Great.
At the same time. So.
How much would you recommend participants bring with them to cover themselves for that first month or so before they get paid?
For apartments only, I would bring around 700 to pay for the first month's rent and for the deposit, just depending on where you're living. And I know some people that pay 500 a month, and to me that was like, oh, that's half of what I'm going to make each month. That's crazy. So it just depends on how much you're willing to spend, how nice you want it to be. But I brought around 700, and I felt comfortable with that amount just for the apartment. Great.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too about picking what priorities are the most important and focusing on those. That's great. Yeah, that's some great advice. Jill, do you have anything to add about the whole apartment hunt and what was a priority for you?
Yeah, I definitely want to second Cleo on the apartment contract. It really comes in handy when you're filing for paperwork. Otherwise, you're just going to maybe not necessarily run into problems, but you're just going to run into a lot more wasting of time, or maybe even other issues with your landlord if he's not willing to sign for you, which you'll have to do if you don't have an apartment contract. And it just gets messy, so just find someone with a contract. My living situation is a little bit different. I chose to live by myself in a one-bedroom apartment, so I definitely pay more than even 500. So I did use my savings, which is why I'm only doing 1 year in this program. I wish I could do 2, but I'm out. The 1,000 euro a month scholarship stipend that we receive every month is definitely a month, absolutely. It is definitely not difficult to find a place with roommates like Cleo did. I think what she did was very reasonable and awesome, and you can definitely pay for all you need to live with other friends. Maybe they're Spanish speaking, or maybe they're friends or family you've already come with, and then also use that money to travel. So when people ask us the 1,000 euros a month, I would definitely say absolutely yes. I would also say, well, I live in La Latina, which is also another more young neighborhood, but I would say it's a more like young adult neighborhood. I love going to Malasaña, though. They have great coffee shops. I love Bicicleta. Some other things I would do is I would get a really good feeling for your landlord in particular. That was one of the most important things for me. I really wanted to know that I could trust my landlord, and I came in with a written set of questions when I was checking out the place, because if you come in looking unprepared, they likely know they're going to, for example, if they've had a mold problem in the apartment and you don't think of to ask it, they're not going to tell you. So I would definitely come in ready with a set of questions. Not saying that every place is like this in Spain, but you don't want to find some place you love and then find out a landlord has kind of hidden something in the back or hidden a rule, which happened to me while I was apartment searching. I would also say the apartment search, like to really find a place I really like, took about 2 weeks. So that's why I really loved being a 4-week immersion participant, because I felt like I had a lot of time just to kind of get my feel for Spain, get my feel around for how to use the metro, and also find a place to live. So one experience that happened for me is I found a place that I loved with roommates, actually in the same neighborhood where I live now. But there were really strange rules from one landlord where she told me I couldn't cook in the kitchen, and I could never have friends over. Even if I had a friend over to like watch TV, I would have to pay for her to be there that evening. So be really careful with really funky rules like that, and CIEE will help you be aware of those different kinds of cultural differences when you arrive. So don't worry that whatever either Cleo or I say now won't be repeated. But it is, I think, helpful to hear it from perhaps one of us. But I love living by myself. I've never lived by myself before. I went from living in a sorority house with 100 women to living by myself. I'm also an identical twin, and she was my roommate. But I can say it's been a really good experience. In Spain, it's definitely more expensive. But I love it. So if you happen to find that living by yourself works for you, there are also a lot of other great cheaper places than mine. You can find a great studio for 500 with all included, living in the center. It is possible, but it does take some time looking into. It definitely takes longer than, for example, if you only have 4 days to find a place to live, that perfect place might not come up. But yeah, just when you look for places, don't maybe necessarily, kind of what Cleo said, have a picture in mind of what you want exactly, because the beautiful place with the balcony and full kitchen and you know, overview of the city, living by yourself, and you're never going to find a price for everything that you could possibly want in a place to live for 300 or 350 euros. If so, it's probably too good to be true. So I mean, lower your expectations. I would say perhaps modify them, because you're not going to, be living a very wealthy life in Spain, but you're going to live a really, really nice life. So just roll with it, and if you choose to live with new roommates who you've never met before, I think that's a really cool new experience. I know a lot of people who have done that and also have had really good experiences with that too. So
cool. Great. And
Maxine, can I add one more thing?
yeah, definitely.
I just wanted to say that if any of your goals is to learn Spanish, I would say hands down the best thing that you can do is live with Spanish speakers, because I didn't do that and I love my roommates. I wouldn't change my situation for anything. But speaking English all day and coming home and speaking English all night and maybe taking a Spanish class here or there is not going to get you to the level that you want to be at. And waking up and being forced to speak Spanish and training your brain to think in that way is one of the best ways to get better. And now, as of 2 weeks ago, I do have a Spanish roommate, and I can say that it has been such a treat having her living in our apartment. And just from 2 weeks ago until now, I just feel much more comfortable, and I've learned so many new phrases and words. So if that's your number one goal, make that your priority, because it's so worth it in the end. That's my last piece of advice.
Yeah, that's great. Cool. Would either of you say you've needed to buy much stuff for your apartments?
No, not at all. I didn't need to buy anything. So.
Cool.
My apartment is very old, and one of the reasons I wouldn't choose to live here again next year is because I feel like if I clean it, then I'm cleaning it again the next day, and it's just not as up to date as it should be. So we did buy some stuff for the kitchen. I bought stuff for my room, sheets, bedding, mirror, stuff like that. And at first when I got here, I was like, oh God, I'm spending all this money at IKEA. And that was before a huge store called Primark opened in the center of the city, where you can find a lot of stuff for really, really cheap. But in the end, it was worth it because I'm using brand new things. I'm using things that I'm not questioning if this has mold or if this doesn't. So I did buy a fair amount of things, but I did pick and choose. Like, do I really need this mirror? Cool. Yeah. Do I really need this new garbage can? No.
What would you guys say is a good goal, a good figure in U.S. dollars to bring with you to Spain to support yourself until you get that first paycheck?
Jill, what do you think?
I think I brought around 1,500, and it was not enough.
Yeah.
This was something that kind of surprised me in the summer, because I remember CIEE recommending you should bring about 3,000 or 3,500 with you, if I'm correct, Alana, for that first month. Or because what happens, especially if you do an immersion, the 4-week immersion program, is you have that 4-week immersion part, and then you work the whole month, first month of September, but you don't get your paycheck September 1st for that month. You have to wait until October 1st. So your first paycheck does not come until October 1st.
Later, yeah.
And keep in mind, so I thought, oh, I don't need 3,000 because, I'll figure it out. No, I would probably bring 3,000. It'll be the most expensive and stressful part of your experience here, finding a place to live and realizing, wow, I just spent a lot of money adjusting, but really, once you get that first paycheck, everything is in the clear and normal, and so just don't underestimate how much to bring, really.
I agree with Jill. I think, I don't remember exactly how much I brought. I was fine, but I probably wish I had more. I would say 3,000 to be safe, a little bit more. It's the first month. Well, for us, we did the 4 weeks, so we were 2 months without having any sort of income. So you're going to be spending, and you don't want to be held back. You want to travel. You want to try new things. You don't really have a way to budget because you don't have any money coming in. So I would say 3,000 and bring more than you think you need. And when it goes fast, don't worry, because it's normal. You're not going to be making any money until you start October 1st, so you don't make money until, around November.
Yeah, the end of October. Cool.
Yeah, I would even budget for that pickpocketed phone that might happen, because that definitely happened to me. And I did not budget for that, and I was very sad. So someone at least getting pickpocketed one thing, I think might be normal. There are a lot of people who haven't been pickpocketed. But I went on my first trip to Valencia, and I was naive with the whole pickpocket situation, even though I was told about it and warned about it, and it got stolen. So I had to buy a new phone here, which of course can put a really big dent into a $3,000 or euro budget in your first 2 months. So, like I said, I would say 3,000 to 3,500 is a realistic amount.
Okay, and would you say, both of you, now that you're getting paid, does the 1,000 euros a month cover pretty much everything, or do you find it necessary to do side work like tutoring or club promoting?
Well, I think especially with the way I live. So what I do is, like I said, I live by myself, and with everything on average every month, so it's either more or less, it's 710. So that's definitely a really, really big chunk into the auxiliary budget. So I do things like club promoting. I really wasn't seeking it. It kind of fell in my lap, but it's a really nice way to make money. I also give private lessons. And yeah, those are my extra ways of making money. So if you find that necessary, otherwise, if it's not necessary for you and you have a great place like Cleo and the auxiliary budget is definitely enough to cover everything, including travel, I think that's just some awesome extra fun money for you. So I think Cleo could probably speak more about that. But I also do pull from my savings every month. So.
Okay.
I think it depends on what you're looking for each month. So if you were looking to travel almost every weekend because you have 3 days off, then yeah, you're definitely going to want to have private lessons. I don't travel, I don't know if I said every month, every weekend. I travel at least once a month, and occasionally will pull from my savings, or I don't know, get the accounts mixed up. But the private tutoring is a great way to make extra cash. It's about the standard, well, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but it's nice to have that extra 20, extra 40, extra 60, depending on how many classes you do, euros coming in each month. For my apartment, and if I didn't do maybe as much traveling, I think 1,000 euros would be fine, and I would live paycheck to paycheck. But seeing some money roll over and realizing, like, okay, I can splurge, I can go on 2 trips here, or being more free with my money. The other day I booked three flights in one day because I had some extra money, and not being as worried about money because of those extra lessons is a nice feeling. But that's your time that you're sacrificing. But then again, we only work 16 hours a week, so you kind of have to do something in your free time, or else you might get a little bit bored. So I think that the private tutoring is both a way to give you some extra experience. I mean, tutoring one-on-one is a great experience, and also giving you extra cash. But 1,000 euros a month for where I live and for how much I pay, I definitely think it's doable. But I would be living paycheck to paycheck, and I do enjoy having that extra money rolling over, or not having to go to the ATM every week to take out money.
Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds good. I think that's probably plenty on apartments and finances, but I feel like that's something everyone likes to wonder about. So thank you, guys. Let's move on to the next one. All right, Jill, tell us a little bit more about how to be active in the community, and maybe how you found these side gigs that you've been pursuing.
I sometimes feel like I feel like I'm back in college because I don't sleep that much. But I would say that my most rewarding experience out of anything I've done is finding a way how I can feel like that I belong to the community of Madrid, which I would definitely say is through finding a volunteer project, a volunteer program, or a center. One thing, so what I do is I volunteer at a refugee center, and I teach English once a week for 1 hour to a class of 17 teenagers. The center is very well structured. There are 2 psychologists in the room with me, so I'm not like helplessly left by myself trying to deal with adversities with which I have no experience. So what I would say is find something you're passionate about and find a way. There's so much to do here in Madrid. There are so many websites where you can find, or even if it's a one-day volunteer project, just to hop in and do something. We only work 16 hours a week, and we definitely, relatively to other people in Spain's struggling economy, we make pretty good money. So finding a way to really get to know what some people in Spain, what they do and how they live their life, and trying to, sound so cliche, but like make the world a better place, I think has been one of the most rewarding things. There are some hard days, and then there are some really awesome days. Like I said, right before I came on the webinar today, we helped celebrate our refugee center's 30th anniversary, which it opened in 1985. And one thing that was cool is there were representatives from the European Union there, the community of Madrid, even different banks like Bankia or their other big businesses like IBM, who were there speaking and saying why their partnerships with this refugee center were really mutually beneficial and why they're important. And so you get to meet a lot of new people too. It's also a great opportunity to network and even build your own little Spanish network if you are so willing to do that. But I actually feel that I understand more about what's going on in Madrid when I read a newspaper article about anything that might happen in politics, economy. I'm able to put it in a little bit more context. So I think that this experience has really made my time here more meaningful. So if you would like to find a place to volunteer or do something in your free time, I think that would be something you would never forget.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on to the next one. I don't want to take up everyone's entire afternoon or evening there in Madrid. Cleo, tell us a little bit about private tutoring and how you find clients and what you do.
Sure. At first when I got here, I didn't have any private lessons, and I was freaking out a bit because everyone around me, left and right, was picking up lessons every single day. But now I have just the right amount, and I still get asked to do private lessons, and I feel bad saying no. But they're very easy to find. They just might not happen right away. There are many websites that you can go on to. One is called Lingo Bongo, and another is called Tus Clases Particulares. Private lessons here are called Clases Particulares, which I guess translates to private tutoring. Or you can find them through your school. You never know when a teacher is going to want lessons, a teacher at your school who's not bilingual, a teacher's son or daughter, a teacher's friend, anyone. And through the Auxiliar Facebook page, which I'm sure you will join before you come or when you get here, there are over 9,000 members of the Facebook page, and I have to say, in the beginning of the year and even throughout the year, every other day there are posts about this person giving up this lesson and whatnot. So there is a high demand for private lessons. So if you don't have them right away, don't worry, you will. There was a time where I had about 6, and it was getting to be a little bit much. Luckily, one of them was only temporary, but you figure out what's right for you. Some people like doing 7 private lessons because they're covering their rent in private lessons, which is really, really nice. Other people prefer to do 1 or 2 just to make a little extra cash for going out at night or something like that. I would say 20 euros is the standard rate. It depends on your preference, and it depends on the preparation going into the class. But I would say most people charge 20 euro, whether it's a conversation class or you're preparing or anything like that. Personally, I wouldn't want to accept less than that because it seems unfair. Somebody else is making that amount of money and you're making less. But it depends. You work it out with the person that you're tutoring. I work with 2 little kids, a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and we only play for an hour and a half in English. So it's a great gig, and to charge 20 euro an hour, that's a little bit expensive. I don't have to prepare anything. I don't have to, look up, different tenses in English and refresh my own memory of English grammar. We're just playing. So in that case, I wouldn't charge as much as I would for a class where I have to prepare. So it just depends. Other than that, like I said, it's super easy to find them, and I would say most importantly, it's your time, so be selfish. If you don't pick up a class that's an hour and a half away, or a class that's going to take 45 minutes on the metro if you don't think it's worth it. It's all dependent on you. It's your time, and people value the English speakers. So do what's best for your schedule, and it's okay to say no. If you have 20 people asking you at once to do a private lesson, it's okay to say, right now my schedule is full. I will pass your information along to my roommates or to the auxiliary page, and I'll help you find somebody, but right now my schedule is full. I think that's it.
Oh, yeah, that sounds great. Thank you. All right, next topic. Cleo, also tell us a little bit about intercambios.
Intercambios. One of the best things about coming to Spain was finding intercambio. So intercambio just means exchange, but they're much more than that. They are native Spanish speakers that want to learn English. We are English speakers that want to learn Spanish. Mine was provided by Tandem, the school that I attended through CIEE in the beginning of the year. And I just filled out a form, and I don't know, a week or two later, I got paired with a Spanish speaker. And he is 31. He lives maybe 20 minutes from me. And first time we met, we just kind of introduced ourselves, got to know each other by speaking in Spanish and English. And you decide from there, do I want to continue meeting with this person, or are we not a great match? So it's not anything that's forced. It's just meeting a friend from a different culture, and it just happened to be set up by our Spanish school, and it worked out great. He is one of my closest friends. We meet every week, if not more. We text not all the time. We text when we can because it's great practice for Spanish and English, and we're planning a trip together, and maybe with my roommates, maybe with their intercambios too. So it's become not just a language exchange, it's become this awesome friendship and the potential for him to come visit New York. He and my roommates, intercambio, spent Thanksgiving with us in Spain, and we got to show them a taste of our culture, and he shows us a taste of his culture just by being a native person from Madrid. You can also find an intercambio anywhere. You can find an intercambio at the gym, someone that you meet that wants to learn English, somebody through your school. I found another intercambio through Tandem. You can find them through dating apps. I know people that have intercambios that way, and even through the auxiliary Facebook page, people just saying, I have a Spanish friend whose friend wants to learn English. Anyone looking for an intercambio. And it has been one of the most, I guess, rewarding things about being in Madrid. Is just having these friendships that started off as almost like a blind date, but there was no romantic part involved. But now they're really good friends of mine. It's not, I don't go each week and think, oh, language exchange. It's like, oh, great, I get to hang out with Nacho and Elena and Sandra, and it's really, really fun.
Cool. Have you taken any organized Spanish lessons, or do you know people that do that?
I just started, well, no, not just started, maybe 2 months ago, through a friend of mine's friend's Spanish boyfriend has a master's in teaching and something else, and he gives classes. So it's not through an academy or through a school, but I meet him once a week. We meet in a cafe, and he has lessons prepared for me. He gives me homework, and I'm really happy I started doing that because just little by little I'm improving each week. I'm learning phrases and grammar that natives know, but I don't have a textbook where I feel pressured to, submit my paper on time or late studying for an exam. And I think one thing but not saying I regret it, is I wish I started taking classes earlier, because not having those private lessons in the beginning of the year, I didn't think I had enough money in my budget to apply to a school to take classes twice a week, or to do what I'm doing now and take classes once a week. And I waited until February, and I got here in August. So that's something that I definitely continue here. and have found really, really valuable. And it's a lot cheaper for an English speaker to take Spanish lessons than it is the other way around.
Definitely. And for people who are interested in taking classes, do you think they're pretty easy to find?
Yes, definitely. Once again, you can find them through the Auxiliar Facebook page. People post often saying you can find group lessons. So if you and a few friends are looking to take lessons, you can go together, and you probably would pay no more than 10 euros. I paid 10 euros for a one-on-one class, or there are several schools throughout Madrid that even if you just Googled or just asked anyone at your school, that they would know.
Cool. And in general, are there like specific Facebook groups you think are pretty valuable for people to join before or after arriving in Madrid?
Yeah, I don't know if it changes year to year because I don't know if the name changes based on the year, but the main one now is Auxiliares de Conversación 2015 to 2016. So
yeah, I have noticed actually there is already a Facebook group, Auxiliares de Conversación 2016-2017. So if you guys know you're going abroad and you've already committed, then that would be a great place to join up and start getting some information.
Yeah, don't be overwhelmed with all the information because it can be. You can turn off the notifications and look when you want, but it's very helpful to find out things that are going on.
Cool. And Jill, do you have anything to add to intercambios and Spanish lessons in Facebook groups?
I think with my secondary major in Spanish, I decided not to take classes or do intercambio, but that definitely did not mean that I couldn't improve. My speaking was definitely very low because, of course, I've only learned Spanish in a classroom. So what I decided to do was just fearlessly speak as much as I could. And what's great about just speaking whenever you can is, well, of course, speaking is the most challenging part because you can't go back and edit. But just if you ever have questions about a word, what I do is if I don't know, I ask someone and then I keep like a little notebook and I write the word down in English and then in Spanish. And then maybe like whenever I'm waiting for like the metro, I just pull out my notebook and I like my little pocket book. It's actually the one CIEE gave us, the little blue book, when we arrived here, and that's where I write all my words. And I just kind of take a moment to, or maybe a minute or two, to look at it, and maybe I forget it later. If that's okay, I can always go back and look at it. But I think it's scary, but just fearlessly speak with as many people as you can. And the great thing about Spain is that people are really excited, especially because we don't look Spanish. They're going to really appreciate the fact that you're wanting to practice their language. So they're not going to be rude to you or be impatient. It's very rare. I haven't really come across anyone who's been rude. They've been relatively pretty patient or very willing to help me. So,
cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Let's see what's next. Just from both of you, just a quick recap or overview or advice, what your experience is like those first couple weeks that you came to Spain, and maybe your kind of big impressions on those first couple weeks.
You want to go first, Jill?
You can go first if you want. I don't care.
All right, I think the first couple of weeks I was probably a bit overwhelmed just the first couple of days, but then being in orientation and realizing that everybody in the exact same boat as you, everyone's trying to find an apartment, everyone doesn't know what to expect with their school, there's a lot of unknown involved, kind of put me at ease, and I applied to the program with my family friend, my cousin, and so having her was a great thing, but I don't think that we needed each other at all. I ended up knowing one or two other people that went to my school that applied to the program, or everyone knows everybody by 6 degrees of separation, so just having a huge support network of people that are in the same boat as you and CIEE in general, I think that it was the best decision I made by going abroad with this company who basically held my hand through the whole process and, gave me the instructions and the steps to do everything, because moving abroad is not easy, and having them to rely on and ask questions to was extremely helpful. But my first couple of weeks, I don't know, I remember texting my mom and just saying, this was the best decision I ever made. I'm extremely happy. And I still stand by that.
Cool. That's awesome. All right. And what about you, Jill?
Yeah, one thing that I really liked about CIE is my experience was different. I came here and I didn't know anyone, so I knew I was alone, but I didn't feel lonely. Like CIE was a great, like kind of like what Cleo said, they're a great hand holder in my way through this process because this was my first time um, moving to a foreign country. So I really did not know what to expect. I was nervous. Um, you're full of emotions of excitement and fear all at the same time. After this program, I hope someone's going to meet me who's also landed at the airport. Where's everybody? And then you kind of all collectively find yourself. So don't worry, it'll all be okay in the end. When, especially you first arrive, everything's pretty different, but you're going to love it and feel a little nervous at the same time, but it's completely normal. So don't think you're weird for feeling a little intimidated or even nervous. During orientation, I really enjoyed it. It's the first 4 days when you arrive, you stay in a hotel in the center, and CIE gives you different presentations about everything you need to know. And my recommendation would be when you're sitting in the room with everyone and they're giving the presentation, I would bring a notebook and pen with you and write down what they say and how to do things because there's going to be a lot of things that they tell you and you're definitely not going to remember it all, especially when you have names with forms like, oh, you need form 10-2B. Like, you're not going to remember that in 3 hours after lunch. So what I would suggest is bringing a notebook and pen with you and writing down even, like, the steps so that you remember, so that when later they say, okay, well, let's go find a phone plan, and they tell you everything, for example, that morning of what you needed to know about a phone plan, you can bring those questions with you so you're not only repeating the questions to the coordinator who took all morning to explain it to you, but also you don't have to bother someone else or take more time by asking the question again. So really take what they say orientation and listen to it. I still use the notebook of what they told me, like even with the INEX insurance policies, like everything they said about it, I kept it in a notebook. And when I sprained my ankle 2 months ago, I got that notebook back out and I knew who to call, I knew where to go. So it's really helpful because it's really important information. So other than that, just enjoy as much as you can. If you are doing an immersion program and you're wanting to learn Spanish, I know that many people found the language school for those first couple of weeks. So just look forward to it, enjoy the experience as much as you can, keep asking questions, and yeah, have as much fun and be as vigilant as you can, especially with things that can be provocative.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you both are immersion participants. Can you just take a minute or so and comment on your host families? How was the host family experience?
Oh, I liked mine. I had another roommate, and she's still one of my best friends here. Her name is Alina, and she was also in my CIE program. And we lived with a senora her name was Carmen, and she was about 75 years old. And while she couldn't provide a lot for us, her two sons helped a lot in the house. But it was really nice just speaking with her, getting to know her, and she lived in Madrid all of her life, so I asked her, what has she liked most about Madrid, and what are some things that she enjoyed doing when she was our age, and those kinds of things. So I really enjoyed the homestay, and it was a really great opportunity just to feel like I had a nice, comfortable, safe, welcoming place to go for the first month while I was here, while I really got adjusted to the life I'd have afterward.
Cool. All right. Any other, let's see, I'm trying to think if there's any other thoughts on that. No, I guess we can open it up maybe for questions. So just as a reminder to people that are still applying, we do still have spaces in the regular Teach in Spain program and the immersion programs. And right now we do have a May 1st deadline. That could be a little bit flexible, though we are going to start working on visas soon. So the sooner the better. And always feel free to reach out to me with questions. And I'm going to open it up. There we go. Feel free to type in the questions box any questions that you might have, and I'll read them out, and Cleo and Jill can comment on it. One question that I saw during the presentation, how much did you guys pack? How many bags? What did you bring? What did you forget to bring? What did you wish you didn't bring?
I packed one big suitcase and a carry-on, and it's hard to pack everything that you know your whole life into 9 months into one bag. But on the plus side is it's Madrid. There's great shopping and there's tons of stuff that you're gonna want to buy. So I figured if I bring the essentials, then I can splurge when I'm here. I definitely have much more than one bag now, so I'll have to buy a second suitcase whenever I decide to go home. But I think bringing 2 bags would have been a lot for me to handle, and like I said, I'm a gym teacher, so I ended up wearing, essentially I keep recycling my clothes each and every week. That's maybe some things I didn't bring. I didn't expect it to be, I didn't bring my winter coat, which I definitely needed, so I got that when I went home for Christmas, because it doesn't get freezing, but you still need a winter coat in the winter. And some other things I didn't bring. Peanut butter and almond butter are really hard to find, but whenever I have visitors, I tell them to bring me that because it's really expensive here. But other than that, it's Madrid. You can find, maybe you aren't finding the brand that you love, or maybe you're not finding every item in one supermarket, but you can find most things.
Great. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
I also brought one big bag, which I would second doing. I know some people who brought 2 bags, and I saw one person bring as much as 7. I don't think you even need a second bag. I would do everything you can to pack one, and I couldn't be happier with my choice to pack one because you're going to buy things, even especially for the girls listening, like unless you really, really love it and can't live without it, I probably wouldn't bring it because some of the clothes you might have worn in the United States are here. And the clothes here are very well priced and they're awesome. I'm definitely going to do a shopping trip before I go back home, especially with shoes. Some things that I was really happy that I quote unquote like overpacked on were makeup. Some people disagree with this, but I'm picky about my products. So if you're particularly picky, maybe bring some extra foundations with you or something. If not, then don't worry about it. Spain has some really nice makeup here. This was kind of a mom thing, but it was definitely my mom's idea, but she told me to bring a tiny first aid kit, and it came in handy just because it was like, oh, I need a Band-Aid or maybe some extra Q-tips or tweezers, disinfecting wipes. Other things that I was really happy that I brought is I use washcloths for when I shower. If you don't use washcloths, then don't worry about it, but I found a really hard time trying to find them in Spain or even in Europe. I really liked bringing a shoulder bag or a purse that zips just because of the pickpocket problem here. With the winter coat, I didn't bring my winter coat, and I was happy about it because it was so hot when we arrived in September and even October. And then I think I bought my winter coat at the beginning of November. You can also buy a really nice winter coat here for a really good price, and I think it saves some pounds in your luggage. Voltage converters, of course, like these kinds of really fun things to bring. Extra phone charger. Something I was really happy that I didn't bring were curling irons and straighteners, or girls like whatever products you might use to style your hair, because they're really cheap here in Spain, and then they also have the plug that'll fit into the European plugs here. So maybe not bring those products, especially too, because if you try to convert the American plugs that we have back at home into the European plugs, they can fry the product, but it just depends on what you have. And I think the most important thing I would reiterate is not packing a lot of clothes. So, overpack clothes.
All right. I'm going to ask some more questions, but we do have another webinar, not mine, unfortunately, but someone else's at 4. So we have to try and keep our answers pretty quick, if you don't mind. Let's see, one more question. Do you recommend getting TEFL certified? And if so, through CIE or independently?
I did not get certified through TEFL. I didn't study education. I had no desire, well, no interest in being a teacher. And I enjoy my job here, but I don't think that I'm going to return home to be a teacher. So for me, it was not worth it to do TEFL. And I don't think that you need it in order to get private lessons. It's something to add to your resume, and you could probably negotiate higher prices for private lessons, but personally, I did not find it necessary at all.
I agree. Unless you're seeking a career in teaching or an education-related field, I think that a TEFL certification is beneficial, but I absolutely don't think it's necessary.
Okay, great. All right, and here's definitely a question pressing on people's minds because I just sent them visa instructions. So, do you guys have any quick tips or advice for people just getting started on this visa process?
Don't panic. It'll all be over soon. Excuse me. Just start early.
Go ahead, Jill.
Yeah, start early and don't wait until the last minute. But don't worry, like, you will get through it. CIE will definitely be there to help you. Maxine, who I'm sure you've been in contact with, was absolutely awesome. So just don't panic. It'll be okay.
And we're actually lucky these guys. I'm getting them started on it about a month earlier than I did for you guys last year because the Ministry of Education is being a bit quicker this year. So they'll hopefully even have some extra time. So good. Let's see. How do you recommend meeting Spanish roommates?
I think through the website that I used, Idealista, sometimes it's described in the description who the roommates are. Just going to the house yourself and seeing who's there. And it's not a guarantee. So I went and looked at this apartment, and I had a French roommate who was also a French-speaking roommate who was from England. And then I looked at another apartment, and there was Italian roommates and Spanish roommates. But you don't know how long they're staying. So it is very hard to find roommates exactly what you're looking for an entire year. But you can also, I think, I don't know the name of it, but there was an application for finding roommates on an iPhone app. You can post in the auxiliary page. You can ask anybody that you meet. I mean, everybody I meet, and whether it's someone I met at the gym, somebody that I had a doctor's appointment with, just anyone that you end up chatting with in Spanish, like, oh, if you know anyone looking for a roommate, like, I'm looking for an apartment. I know that might be hard to do, but I think it's easier said than done because there are always people looking for apartments. It just kind of falls into place.
Yeah, using a website like Idealista is probably the best way to go. It also helps in descriptions, like if you see someone say, I'm nice, like, okay. But, some people really take the time to write something like, I'm an engaging, clean, fun, and thoughtful roommate. It's like, well, okay, maybe they really are. But you have to just kind of go and see for yourself. So.
Great. Can you tell us just briefly a figure, how much do you usually spend each month on groceries and transportation?
Transportation, the metro is 20 euros a month if you're under 26, and you can get anywhere in Madrid. So if you're under 26 years old, it'll cost you 20 euros to get to and from school or anywhere within any of the zones of Madrid, including the airport. Groceries, 30 euros maybe. I'm really bad at budgeting, and I should calculate better, but not as much. I think I go to the cash register, and I feel like I have all this food, and it rarely comes out to more than 20 euros.
Cool.
A month?
Yeah.
I would for food.
Month. Sorry, that was per week. Sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, okay. I like to eat out, as well as go shopping. I would say actually it's kind of bad. Mine's like half and half. So I budget around like 175 for groceries every month, and then I also use the Abono, which will be available to you if you're 26 or younger, for 20 euros every month. And the public transportation here is awesome. I haven't had to use another form of transportation other than the rare cab ride home really late at night, but no. Other than that, I use the public transportation.
Great. Can you guys quickly mention what do you wear when you're teaching?
I wear sweatpants and a t-shirt every day.
Gym class.
Yeah.
I think what's really pretty typical if you're teaching more English classes is Spain is definitely less formal. What I wear every day is I wear jeans and some tennis shoes and then maybe like a sweater or long sleeve shirt. So I'm very casual. I would not go too casual. Like I probably wouldn't wear yoga pants to school. But you know, just be casual and comfortable. You don't have to wear a suit. You don't have to wear dress pants or a collared shirt. If you want to wear like a nice collared shirt, you can. But many of the people who go to school are going to wear jeans and a sweater or something related to that.
And how cold do you think it gets in the winter?
Well, I teach in La Sierra, or really close to it, so at times it was around 10 degrees Fahrenheit colder than Madrid, and it snowed up there, but it doesn't snow in Madrid. So in Fahrenheit, because I'm still getting used to Celsius, which is really sad, but I would say in Celsius, maybe in Fahrenheit, around, depending where you are, if you're in the north, it can get like 25 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit, but if you're in Madrid, it won't. I don't think it gets colder than 32 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. I'm on Celsius now, but it never was colder than it wasn't really below freezing. But prepare for traveling outside and knowing that it will be colder.
Cool. And let's see. Would you recommend that participants come earlier than orientation to start apartment hunting?
No.
No.
Okay. And sorry, I'm doing like rapid fire questions. Do you know how many, or did most of your friends end up staying in hostels or Airbnbs while they apartment hunted after orientation?
I know some people did in the regular programs, not the 4-week and the 2-week had an advantage because we were there first. Some people's apartments were available October 1st, so they had to figure out accommodations just for a few days beforehand. They're not that expensive, and like I said, it all works out. So it may sound stressful, and you may be running around the city to find an apartment, but you will find one. I promise you that.
Yeah, Claire, and I can't remember how many people were in our 4-week immersion program, but I maybe heard of one person having to find a hostel, but I'm pretty sure that was an outlier. So I think that anyone in our 4-week immersion program, I don't really recall anyone having to find a hostel. Maybe a couple of people in the 2-week, but I definitely think it was a lot more common in the regular programs where you arrived and just went straight to teaching.
Mm-hmm. All right, that sounds good. And let's see, really quickly, what are your comments on where schools are placed and what your commute is like?
My school is out by the airport, so at first I read online that it was, 7 miles from the center. I was like, oh, that's great. Then once I figured out where I lived and how long it took, it's about 15 minutes, and I was like, oh, it's so long. But no, in comparison to other people's and in comparison to commutes that people have in the United States, 15 minutes is pretty good. I take the metro to the train. It breaks up the commute. I read a book. I listen to music, and I'm pretty lucky with the commute, and I'm located in zone B1 right by the airport.
Cool.
My commute is probably one of the more longer ones. I'm in what's called the C1 zone, and I believe the zones go to C2, or at least out that far. So what I do is I take about a 20-minute metro ride to a bus station called Moncloa, and then I take about an hour bus ride from Moncloa to my teaching town called Alpedrete, which is northwest. And it's not, like I said, it's not bad at all. It's actually really lovely. It's a beautiful ride up. It takes a while, but you always find something to do. Maybe that's even like coming up with a lesson plan. If someone says, can you come up with something for second hour, and you think, oh, I'll just do that on the bus ride to school. So don't worry if you have a long commute. So, yeah.
Great.
It's nice.
And one last kind of quick question. Do you belong to a gym? How expensive are they, and are they accessible?
Yes, I belong to a gym. It's about a 10-minute walk from my apartment. I love, love, love my gym because they have classes there. I bought my membership in the beginning of the year because they had a student rate. So it was, I don't remember how much, 300 and something divided by 9 months. So it came out to about 33, 36 a month. And if you don't do that, at my gym, it would be about 56 a month, which can be pretty pricey. Other gyms can cost about 30 a month too, but some of their classes were virtual classes, so you weren't having a real instructor, and that's something I didn't want at all. So I'm very happy that I bought the pass up front. They had a 6-month, and a 9-month option.
Cool.
I don't have a gym membership. If I had gone back and decided to do it, I'd been perfectly fine with it. But you do walk a lot here, and I went to the gym 3-4 times a week before I came here to Spain. And I was really into weightlifting, so I was really active. And I came here and mostly walked, or I just took a walk around my neighborhood, and I feel fine. But also, like, if you decided to do a gym, I think that's awesome, and I would definitely go for it if you want to choose that.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions for now, and unfortunately, I have to clear up the webinar program for my colleague. But thank you guys so much. I love hearing your stories, and thank you for all the attendants who came and asked some good questions. And yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys have a great night and a great weekend. And thank you again for sharing your stories with us.
Very welcome.
Anytime.
Cool.
Feel free to reach out with more questions if they want.
Okay.